Now we will move on to Ms. Lorena Ojeda from Argentina, who will present tapping into social emotional learning with our Storyscape. Ms. Ojeda graduated from National University of Tucumán. She holds two bachelors, one in English teaching and another in English with a major in literature and linguistics. She also holds a Tesol certificate. She has lived in the United States for 8 years, working as an ESL teacher for language schools, implementing immersion programs. So, with a further ado, let us give the floor to Ms. Lorena Ojeda.
Hi, thank you so much for having me again today. I'm really happy to be joining you guys and sharing some of the new insights from our Storyscape. Um, I will be sharing my presentation and sending any questions or any comments. We'll be happy to answer those for you. So, if you guys participated in my presentation yesterday, I talked about social emotional learning. In this case, I'm going to develop it from a different perspective. We'll also be talking about the benefits of using stories in combination with social emotional learning, how we can develop empathy through stories, and how social emotional learnings are great ways to encourage different skills that we're going to see together. Some final remarks, and I'll be showing you how our platform, the Voices platform for our Storyscape, is going to be used to meet these purposes. So, in relation to social emotional learning, I have chosen the perspective from this organization for children. Sorry. And basically, the definition of social emotional learning has to do with these processes of developing self awareness, self control, interpersonal skills that are vital for school, for work, and for life in general. In this case, if we practice social emotional learning in our schools, in our classes, we'll be able to benefit the whole society. We'll be able to contribute and strengthen different relationships between peers, between families, between the whole community to benefit each other. Basically, here I have one of the main concepts in relation to social emotional learning, which is social emotional learning is directly connected to academic learning and success by managing contributing directly on how learning affects and impacts our students. If we learn together with our students how to be socially aware, how to work on our self awareness, self management, how to make responsible decisions, and how we relate with others, we'll be able to create a great environment starting from our classes. Then we can move on to the schools, we can move on to the uh, higher levels of social stratification of the different social levels, and how that can also impact positively in the instruction. So, why our Storyscape in combination with our platform are going to also support the benefits of social emotional learning. And these are great points to mention before I show you our platform, before I show you our different tools. One of them is people that have strong social emotional skills are able to better cope with challenges, and they can also benefit, as I mentioned before, academically. If we control our impulses and we can manage our emotions successfully, we can also provide a foundation for positive long term effects on all the members of our society. Also, social emotional learning helps students to build meaningful relationships, not just for right now, but for their life. And finally, social emotional learning encourages positive social behavior and and it decreases emotional distress, which, as we all know, contribute to lower the affective filter that makes sure our students can be ready and can be more prepared to learn. So, we are using stories in our Storyscape, which is a story-based curriculum that is developed to support levels A1 and A2 for right now. So our curriculum has 6 units, sorry. Five of those activities are 5 stories that have many different stories that students can incorporate, and they can learn vocabulary and high frequency expressions by means of those stories, because we believe that fiction creates a safe environment for discussion of different topics. Students can also relate to the characters of the stories and events presented subconsciously, so they can incorporate or acquire the new language expressions, but at the same time, they can connect with the different characteristics, characters, events in the story, and they are more open to express their opinion within the context of the story. Students also can analyze stories from different perspectives, and they get inspired by the content, the topics developed throughout the stories. What happens in students' brain when we introduce or incorporate storytelling in the classroom? We have the division here of the different chemicals that are released during an experience with stories. So the first one to mention is cortisol. Cortisol is a chemical that is released when we have tension, conflict, but also it increases our attention and focus. So memorable stories can have memorable effects in our brain. Oxytocin also is released in response to those feelings of connections. It helps students increase empathy and trust. And dopamine also is released in response to solving those conflicts, and it creates pleasure and enable us to recall events accurately. It has been proven that a person who listens to a story can remember the story 20 times more than if a person listens to just facts. So this is a very important consideration to have when selecting materials for our classes. What happens with the neural activity in our brain? Well, we have also known that there is cortical activities that our brain uses 5 times more when processes just data and facts. So there is more brain activity when we listen to stories. Neural coupling also synchronizes our brain, the listener's brain, with the teller's brain. In this case, it can also be used to present stories where students can develop empathetic understanding for medical, socioeconomical conditions that they didn't know about. And finally, the mirroring, and then those neurons enable the listener to experience a story and connect in such an emotional level with the teller and the characters. So, mirroring can be used in stories to help students understand different unusual situations and to develop empathy. So, knowledge can also support empathy, as we will see together. Today, I'm going to present you the story called Stronger Together. Normally, we start before we get into the story. The curriculum includes pre reading activities where we introduce high frequency expressions, vocabulary through um, visuals, TPR, and also personalized questions and answers. So that is previous to the story, and students can practice the new vocabulary and expressions before they start with the story. I'm going to read this story for you, and then we're going to work together as we move. Stronger together. It was dinner at the Barnash's house. The phone rang. Hello, is that Luke? Said Mrs. Barnash. Bernash's boss, Kevin, for the fire station. Yes, it is. Is there a problem? Is it's your mom. She's in the hospital. She had an accident. A week later, Jennifer, Mrs. Bernashes, woke up. Everyone in the family was relieved. Her son Luke, her daughter Cleo, and their little dog Daisy. Jennifer has always been a very positive person. I've had accidents before, she says to the doctor. I'm a firefighter. I've always recovered. It was easy. What other accidents have you had? Asked the doctor. Oh, I've fallen, I've been hurt, burnt, but it's part of the job. I'm a professional. I work to get well quickly. I'm sorry to tell you this, said the doctor, but this is not going to be easy. Maybe you've had accidents before, but this time you can't be a firefighter anymore. What can be what can the Barnashes do? Jennifer cannot return to the fire station and be a firefighter. Life is not easy. The Barnashes have bills to pay. They are stressed. Jennifer is very sad. She has always been a professional firefighter. What will she do? She lies in bed all day. Being a firefighter was her dream. Luke hates this. His mom has always taught him to be strong, but this accident has changed her. Well, I'm going to show her, he thinks positively. Luke is 16, he can earn a salary and pay the bills himself. Now it is time for Luke to be the professional. He sends his resume to some companies and has some interviews. Their interviews go well, and his resume is strong because he is hardworking. He gets hired as a chef. He can go to school in the day and work as a chef at night in a busy restaurant. Mom, I earn a salary now, he says. I was hired as a chef, so I can pay the bills. Don't worry. Jennifer is surprised by her son. He has inspired her. He reminds her of the importance of being positive. If he thinks he can go to school and work as a professional chef, there is also hope for her. Jennifer knows Kevin, and the fire station want to help her somehow. Jennifer can still use her hands and a computer. She changes her resume a little and sends it to Kevin. The fire station helps her get an interview in another department. She is hired as a 911 operator. She can still help people and be useful. It is not perfect, but life never is. And Jennifer is positive and knows she can do this. Luke, Cleo, and Daisy sit on Jennifer's bed after Jennifer tells them the good news. They all hug. The accident has changed things. But the Bagnashes are a positive family and they know they can do hard things. They know together they are strong. Thank you for listening to the story. And well, our stories are, not so long. You can tell the stories, you can share the stories with your students. You can start by using our illustrations. You can also print the stories. You can use the audio because we also have audio for the stories. You can turn the stories into different activities for your students. Okay. In this story, we explored the importance of positivity, how story can turn an unfortunate situation into a learning opportunity. In this case, we also have opened the door for discussion about unexpected situations that cause distress. What happens when you go through these situations? How do you react? Where are those positive attitudes that support a person in distress? What is stress? Like how important it is for us to support a person who is having a hard time. Apart from the language richness that this story provides and the practice on, the target structures that in this case are vocabulary for emergency, for health, and also past perfect. We are also supporting students' ability to cope with unexpected situations, and how we can support our classes with stories like this, how we can develop a program, and how, in this case, we can support social and emotional projects. In this case, we have one of those that is a breathing exercise with the infinity sign, in which students have the inhale and exhale prompt here, and they have to use their hands to make the trace the same sign, and while they are inhaling and exhaling. It may sound like a very simple activity at the beginning, but it does have very positive impact into our students' ability to oxygenate the brain, to think clearly, to focus. So that also supports these life skills that we also want to stress. Also, the importance of positivity supports our ability to be resilient and overcome situations that are not always easy, as you saw in this story, and how we can nurture those by means of a positivity collage, for example, how we can transform these situations in a learning opportunity. Apart from that, here I have a brain break that also adds up to, how our brain is working. But it also is another activity that can help students to focus. Okay, finding the different hidden words and moving on to our curriculum and how we organize it. Basically, every unit in every of the levels that we have a specific set of content to be covered. So, the story that I shared with you, Stronger Together, is story number 3 within our curriculum. The vocabulary that we have worked and we have introduced to our students is work related. This story and this unit is part of the health um, content or theme. And the grammar aspect that we have also introduced here is the use of the present perfect tense. And just like this, every unit and every level and every story has its own um, list of contents to be covered. Okay, these for our stories, we have 5 activities per story. These activities can include macro level activities like this one. It is a drag and drop tool that allows students to organize the events into stories chronologically. This is an integrated activity. Instead of having a reading comprehension activity, we are recording the questions, and students will use our recording tool to record their answers. And these just are some of the ways in which we are working on the story at all different levels, while at the same time supporting social and emotional learning. As we also have per unit in which students will cover specifically the present perfect tense, a slide introducing them to the concept, examples that they can use. The same will be for the vocabulary that is designed for that unit. They will have also plenty of practice with slides and different conversation tasks that they can do together in class or from their devices. Apart from that, here is an example of the way in which the grammar and the vocabulary practice work. We also have, after each slide, we have between 6 to 7 exercises that are focused on grammar, and they are used in context. The same for the vocabulary sections. We have plenty of practice for students also to review the vocabulary that they incorporated in that unit. Additionally, we have the assessment that allows teachers to assess grammar aspects that were discussed in Unit 4, for example, vocabulary assessment also for the vocabulary that students covered during the class. Here you have integrated activities, you have a listening section here combined with a matching. We also have and feature the authentic material resources that will allow students to also explore different English speaking countries around the world. That includes also maps, different types of panoramas that you will see in a bit. Here is one of our panorama activities, and it is an exploration of different areas in the countries, and students have thinking routines to discuss every panorama. We also have authentic materials that allow students to support authentic communication, native speakers interviews in which they will be exposed to different types of accent. And because we have also supported and built this cultural aspect, our this is a way in which we assess students' ability to communicate in real life situations. So students will have a contextualized task in which they will get first the context, then they will use three modes of communication to support, in this case, interpretive listening activities that is connected with a presentational and an interpersonal activity to assess students' communicative competence. So, in relation to all this, we also have, as you were able to see, an array of stories that focus on different types of life skills that are necessary to support and to inspire our students to develop while they're also having their English classes. So we have a story in relation to making compromises, mourning a loved person, frustration, cancel plans, supporting people in difficult situations, and more. These are just some of the stories that we have. So I'd like to invite you to scan the QR code that will allow you to get free access to our materials. We are featuring new sections in level A2, new video tool activities for our students and teachers to use, new student picture activities, and today we just launched accessible tools that will allow students that have visual impairment to be included in the classroom and enjoy also our materials and be included, as part of the English classes. Finally, I'm gonna be sharing with you the teacher-friendly tools that allow students and teachers to maximize their time. In this tool, you will be able to assign activities to students who need practice or students who finish their activities first and you need to add more activities to them. You can personalize any of these activities and make them, your own. Any of the pages in our platform are also fully editable, so teachers can edit pretty much anything. Our platform features an open, flexible curriculum. Another added tool for teacher is that you don't spend so much time grading. There are auto-graded activities, and the ones that are teacher needed, we need to give feedback. You can record feedback, so you can use those for productive skills development. And finally, I am going to mention a little bit in relation to social emotional learning, how, according to Castle, social emotional learning can be developed or has four areas of development. So the first one includes building foundational support and plan for social emotional learning. In this case, as our Storyscape supports social emotional learning, this can be a starting point to introduce social emotional learning in your classes. How adults should strengthen these social emotional learning competencies and capacity. So it would be great to not just teach that by saying it, but by practicing it together with your students. And that will help us promote social emotional learning for students. And how practice is a continuous improvement. So doing it every class with your students will also be a great way to support it. So storytelling incorporates these skills that are needed to support social emotional learning. So this is a great way to allow those opportunities to talk about different situations and understand each other, and how we can also use these projects to model and be the source of inspirations for our students to practice those social emotional learning strategies. This is the best way to teach and to lead by examples. So our Storyscape is part of Voces Digital, which is an American company, and we have been in the market for 13 years in the US and expanding to Europe and Latin America. We have more than 15,000 language educators. We are very careful in how we protect students' privacy through strict safety measures. So we also include those very strict safety measures. And we are committed to inclusion through social and emotional learning, through people who are represented in our stories, through the different ways in which we want to support inclusion. And like I said a little bit ago, today we launched our inclusivity and accessible tools. And we want you guys to use them and enjoy them with your students. So please sign up for a trial, and you will be able to explore what contributions you can make to your classes and how that can change and support all your efforts in a way that you've never experienced before. Thank you so much for listening to this presentation, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lorena Ojeda, for your contribution in this seminar. We're going to have room for questions and comments. We're going to start with Teacher Angie. The question is very simple. The stories are part of a software or platform. We know that there is a free version or trial, but can you define it as a platform or software?
It is a platform. The platform is built in so that teachers can access different titles. We support different programs in our Voces program. We have, titles for German, Spanish, French, and English. Is also another title. Like, we have our Storyscape is one series. We also have ESL, but yes, it is a platform. We integrate also with learning management systems such as Canva, Schoology, and Google Classroom.
Excellent. Thank you very much. We have a very nice comment by Teacher Rosa, which is it is very important to work on having a positive attitude in life. You were saying like when you use the stories, you have 20% success in creating or generating an impact in future generations. It's very motivating.
It is. It actually works in many different areas of life. You also can see that now storytelling is not only used for education, but for so many different ways, because this is one of our primary ways of communicating. Human beings are storytellers by nature, so it is part of our genes to do it and to tap into those using innovative tools and technology to enhance the experience is also something that can contribute and make a big impact into the classes.
Thank you. We have one question by Jose Vadilla. What kind of subject should a teacher improve or develop using different stories to develop the present perfect tense?
um, I think making a story comprehensible has to do with, in this case, how we incorporate the use of the present perfect tense naturally within the context of the story. So, in this case, with the story that I presented, we worked on talking about jobs, right? But the present perfect can be used to talk about any type of experience. And the idea is to also, because we have our editor tools, students and teachers can create their own stories. They can discuss any situation that even is happening in their classes by using a story and incorporating it so naturally that I don't think it's necessary to know all the subjects, but to focus on what you need at the moment.
Excellent. I'm sure that this platform provides a very complete experience: grammar, analysis, vocabulary. My question is, in the example that you provided, you were reading the story. The question is, can we add sounds? Do we have a machine or kind of display where students can listen or play the story?
Yes, students and teachers have the same tools that we have to create the curriculum, to create the stories. So, yes, by using the editor tool, they can add their own audio. You can even have students reading different parts of the story so they can listen to themselves and they can be the audio for the story. But yes, all the stories also come with a recording where they can play. They can decide whether they want to play the audio fast speed, normal speed, very slowly, depending on the student's level. This is also part of our tools. But yes, anything that you saw there can be editable. Everything is fully editable. So you can personalize it and make it your own. You can even change the illustrations. You can have your students, draw the sequence of the story and have their illustrations there. So instead of having the ones that we provide, you can make your own too.
Excellent. Teacher Angie is providing another comment. It is about the connecting with the students and reducing the affective filter. It is very important the way the teachers have the possibility to connect to facilitate a learning path where they feel motivated and they are not stressed. You were saying that this platform is motivating self awareness, self directed learning, and that fiction at the end creates a safe environment. Why is that important?
It is very important, sorry, because students not only feel learning a different language can be intimidating, but at the same time, every student comes to the classroom with their own particular situation. So if we open, provide a situation or provide a story in which we can talk, express our ideas freely, that also connects students with the teacher and they trust the teacher. They can trust the teacher and they can feel safe, they can feel seen, they can feel understood. That has a way, higher positive impact, not only in the students' ability to learn, but also in their ability to trust and support each other and connect with the teacher. The role of teaching and and teachers in general have also changed. We are not the source of information anymore. We are now guides. We are guiding our students. But if you cannot trust the person that is guiding you, it is a little bit difficult, that students will follow your lead. So I think building trust through stories is a great way to start.
We can see in the comments that Susie Bautista, sorry. I love how we can help students to go through and engage learning of the second language with their own personal experiences. That is fantastic. And it is very positive right now because stories are used in many different approaches and different techniques. However, you are showing us that we can use the social emotional learning, which is different. How would you describe the difference between task-based approach, which is one way to use stories, or the social emotional learning? What is the difference? What is the impact? Thank you.
The difference, I think, is a task based approach can be focused on achieving one or a combination of communicative tasks, which serves the purpose of communicating. If you're talking about social and emotional learning, you're not just concentrating on communicating, but also on developing by means or through communication empathy, self awareness, um, resilience. You are going deeper. You are not just, there is the first layer, let's say, which would be language, right? But also the second layer and the other layers would be attitudes. How by using or by discussing certain situations and certain aspects, we are going to also develop life skills and using a combination of communication, let's say task-based approach in combination with social emotional learning, you're providing a more holistic approach to students as people, and how we support this through different ways, and combining learning the language with supporting life skills.
Thank you very much. Indeed, is we are using different stories to create a meaningful impact in students. Sandra has a very social question. Can you please share again the details for the free trial?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I got disconnected for a second.
Okay. The
Can you
question
say
is,
that again?
can you share again the details for a free trial? Sandra Rojas?
Yes, I can. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen again. That way, teachers can scan the QR code, and I can also send the link to who are joining now or who want to access our platform can benefit from it. Okay, here we go. Sorry, it's taking a moment. My internet is a little slow for whatever reason. It's yeah, you'll see it in a second. I promise. There you go. So you can scan the QR code there to access our stories, our platform, and introduce this to your classes. Give me 1 second. I'm going to I'm using a viewer version because for whatever reason my computer doesn't doesn't the part the here you go. 1 second. uh,
Besides the QR
I
code,
will
maybe we
also be
can scan
sharing the
it and
presentation in
provide
case you want to see
the
it.
link.
Yes. Yes, please. Please. Sorry. And see if that works for you guys better. Sorry about neat. Okay, here is the one that I was talking about. You will be able to see the QR code in a second. Hopefully, it shows up. You can share it in the chat too. 1 second. There you go. It won't change, I promise.
Thank you very
Is there
much.
any other question that I can answer?
Well, actually, we have just comments by Claire. Students, hello? Yes, we have one more comment by Claire Goodman. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
I couldn't hear
Is
it.
you couldn't. I'm sorry. Let's see.
That's true.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. Nice and clear. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing because that's probably what is making the connection a little bit
Can you listen
slow.
now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hello?
I am reading Isaac. I am reading Isaac's comment. Yes, thank you, Isaac, for your comment. What I wanted to say is that something really interesting about this approach is that we like to be very prepared for everything, right? And we want to have all the answers for everything. However, we as teachers embracing a different approach, in this case, social and emotional learning, implies being able to relate with each other and being able to understand each other and make sure we know that trial and error is part of the process. So this is something that I wanted to say about it, and thank you so much for your comments. And it's it really helps us support each other. Thank you, Joanna. Yes, you are correct, Johanna, because we the concept of storytelling, for us as teachers is normally like a reader. You just have a reader, maybe use it at the end of the year to, to assess students' ability to retell a story. But normally, this is a relegated place that storytelling has in our curriculum. However, with our approach, you're going to be able to use storytelling as a curriculum on its own and cover all the content that you need to cover, while at the same time tapping into different social emotional learning topics or other topics that are going to be also interesting for your students. I was commenting on that.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ojeda. Thank you for your contribution for this seminar. I think we're going to have a little break, 10-minute break, before we continue with the following session. Thank you very much.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.
Bye.
Welcome back, everyone. We hope you had an enjoyable lunch. Now we will begin the afternoon presentations with a team from the Arizona University, made up of Veronica Ogilvy from Costa Rica, Yusra Abudenhab from Egypt, Onur Ural from Turkey, Wen from China, Dr. Jill Kastek from the United States, and I believe we have one or a couple of guests that will be joining us today. I believe that is Suzanne Pineda, and I believe that's the one that I'm missing, I believe. I apologize in advance if I mispronounced any of the last names. This team will present immersive global learning, unleashing the potential of virtual field experiences. Veronica Ogilvy is a doctoral candidate at the University of Arizona, pursuing an interdisciplinary degree in second language acquisition and teaching, SLAT, with a minor in teaching, learning, and sociocultural studies, TLS. She specializes in second language acquisition, digital literacies, teaching and learning, and digital equity. Veronica has made connections across several disciplines, including the SLAT program, College of Education, K-12 schools, and community-based organizations in Tucson. She's collaborating in multiple projects to connect second language teaching and learning to the interdisciplinary areas of digital literacies, equity, and inclusion, and community making, which includes STEM and the arts. So please let us welcome the team from the Arizona University.
Thank you for this introduction. And I wanted to add that I'm also a professor at UNED. I'm really, really excited to be here with you in this wonderful seminar. And I want to also thank everybody from my team to be for being here and sharing uh, everything we have done during these past 2 years. And the invited teacher, Susan Pineda. So before we start, um, Jusra, can you share your screen, please? We want to acknowledge that our work, research, and writing took place on the land and territories of the Tohono O'odham and Paskiyaki people, as our research is closely related to the idea of place. Through its connection to diverse communities living in Tucson, Arizona, we feel it is of the utmost importance to not only name this as a fact, but also to do our best to be in balance with these communities. Now, where are we heading today? Well, enjoy a beautiful picture of Tucson, Arizona first. Where are we heading today? This presentation is divided into three stages. First, we're going to talk about research-based principles. We have worked in this project, virtual field experiences in Worlds of Experience for 2 years, where we have had this professional learning series in multiple research. Then we're going to, well, from this research, we got some valuable outcomes, some principles that are very practical so you can actually adapt into to your classrooms. We're going to see some illustrative examples of VFEs, virtual field experiences, just to see these principles come to life. And also we're going to listen to Susan Pineda talking about her implementation process, her creation process and design, and work with her students. The context of this research that we have done, next slide, please, is it's a 2-year learning series and research initiative with K to 12 and community college educators. It consisted of 6 virtual sessions with different cohorts. We got together on Saturdays, 2 days where we had discussions, conversations, spaces for creation of virtual field experiences. And 40 teachers participated in this learning series from different states, nations, and language groups. Teachers from all over the place and different languages, of course. This project was centered in 3 main objectives. Next slide, please. Literacy and technology, teaching and learning, language and culture. So literacy and technology, because we're using implementing this instructional approach, which is virtual field experiences, which I'm going to explain in a minute. Teaching and learning, because we're bringing an approach that is innovative using immersive technologies for language learning. And also language and culture, connecting, helping the students connect to the world outside through the exploration of experiences that expand their worldviews. And as I mentioned before, virtual field experiences, short form VFEs, they are digital experiences to generate global and local connections, engage in international cultural content development in the form of field experiences that are immersive. We're going to look at one example of a VFE just for you to get a better idea of what it looks like. So I am the creator of this example. Some of you might be familiar with this place, Plaza de la Cultura in San Jose downtown. This is a very iconic place where we have had many stories and experiences in. So you get into the experience, you get to a landing page that has a 360 view, and you can see the people walking around, the landmarks, for example, the National Theater there, the Pops, an ice cream place that is very famous in Costa Rica. You can see the lottery vendors, people walking around doing their shopping. So this is the landing page in the design of this experience. If we go to the right where the lottery vendor is, we can see, for example, some music. Well, let's go back just a little bit. We got into the Central Market. So if we come outside and we go to the lottery vendor, you see that there are different hotspots around the 360 image. Each hotspot takes you to a different experience. In one of the corners, there's a lottery vendor. You can see the lottery ticket on the left-hand side. Some background music. You see that the ticket says, please take care of the animals. Take care of the animals. So this reflects a little bit more about the Costa Rican culture, which is focused on being eco-friendly and taking care of living beings, right? So let's go to the market now so we can get an idea. If we go down, if we keep on walking, like feeling that we're there, this is a life in the day of Costa Rica, and we get to the Central Market. There we have a 360 image. We can look around. We see the people sitting in the cafeteria next to each other, strangers sitting next to each other and possibly talking about everyday topics. You see all the ingredients that grandmas use for remedies, people buying the things. You see the vendor there. the names of the products that the vendor sells. If you hover over the names of the products, you can see the names in Spanish and English. And if you were to go to San Jose downtown right now and go to the Central Market, you will see the same scene. Eh, Maybe even with the same person who has been there for years, and that all of us get to know because we go buy things to this market. So it is an immersive experience in which you can include different hotspots with different resources in activities, interactive activities for your students to explore. So if you click on the green one, the arrow, we keep on moving around. So it gives you a feeling of being there. There's an embodied feeling, right? You see the bus depot there. You can go to Playa Bochinche and explore the nature, get more information. You can go to the Coronado Church. So as a teacher and designer, you decide which experiences you want the students to have. Now let's go to the next slide, Joshua, please. So thinking about the San Jose example, the virtual field experience, we're going to just take a minute to reflect and connect. What did you notice? What did you enjoy? And what did you find exciting about this experience? I'm gonna give you just 1 minute to think about it. If you want, you can share with others in the form of text or talk to the person next to you. So there are, as it is mentioned, there are choices that can be explored. So it is a feeling of like choose your own adventure. As a student, you go where you wanna go, and you have this freedom and agency to explore the place in a very personalized manner. Also, is something that I noticed. You can look at the different stories. It's not just about like learning vocabulary or grammar. You know the stories behind all the products that are there. Eh, you can pay attention to little details, cultural details that we might not be able to see if we just have like traditional exercises. You can feel as if you're there, if you're walking around, there's this feeling of being able to move freely from one place to the other. So it increases mobility. Okay. As it is mentioned, there are a lot of images, so you can actually see what is going on and connect the language to a real thing. Okay. As I mentioned before, there are different principles in these 2 years that we have been doing research about virtual field experiences. We have gotten some outcomes that are that you can adapt and use in your classrooms. Even if you don't create a VFE, you can use these principles, right? What we're going to do right now is the 10 principles. We're going to illustrate them using virtual field experiences. The first three principles are related to the San Jose example. So the first one in the next slide is language learning is about customizing learning through creativity, design, and interactivity. So in this case, rather than following just one size fits all approach, these language learners that participate in this experience are encouraged to explore and engage with the language in a personalized and interactive way. The next principle is related to language learning being becoming part of the global community. Through the use and design of VFEs, students can feel like they're like in the market. They're in the market and they can see the people around, they see the stores, they can get a glimpse of how people behave, maybe. So, language learning is more than just acquiring linguistic skills. It's a means to becoming an integral part of the global community. So language becomes a powerful tool for cultural exchange, enabling individuals to appreciate the differences, traditions, beliefs, and values that different communities have. It allows them to step outside their own cultural boundaries and be more, when they're exposed to this richness and diversity, um, they're more sensitive and respectful towards other communities. And the next principle is related to developing multiple literacies for meaning making. So, as I mentioned before, it's more than just talking about linguistic skills. It is being able to acquire various literacies like critical thinking, cultural awareness, digital literacies when they're creators and actually when they're exploring the experience, and also media literacy. So they learn to navigate different contexts, understand nuances, and infer meaning from different sources. So it is very important right now, to think about that. It is not just about reading and writing or thinking about skills in isolation. It's about knowing that language is action and language happens in a context, in a place. Now, Joshua is going to exemplify the next three principles with another VFE.
Thank you, Vero. So we're going to look at the cross-cultural Easter VFE that was created by Anne Hagerson. That was one of our teachers in the Worlds of Experience. Anne Hagerson is a virtual educator for the U.S. State Department for English language programs, and she teaches pre-service teachers in Mexico. She created the cross-cultural Easter VFE, and the purpose of this VFE is to promote mutual understanding and cross-cultural exchange through a multimodal approach to teaching. So she presents the Easter traditions from in three different cultures, and these are the U.S., in Sonora, Mexico, and in Spain. I'm going to show an example from each of those, an example or a tradition from each of those three locations. So let's take a look at Easter in the United States. As we see, it's very interactive and engaging. It engages the learner with different things, the music, the video. And then when we look at this tag, the Easter egg hunt poem, we see that it allows, when we click on the blue button here, we see that there is an embedded activity that allows the learners to, or invites the learners to read the poem aloud and record a response, an oral response. So these activities contextualize language learning. We'll take a quick look, an example from Sonora, Mexico. We see here the collage of images. Of course, each one of these represent a tradition, a cultural tradition or a religious tradition. In Mexico, the deer dance is a popular dance that represents the cultural ways of celebrating Easter in Sonora. And we find this information embedded in a way that engages the learners with looking at the images and reading the information, and also learning about the ways Easter is celebrated in Mexico. And last, let's look at an example in Spain. So in Spain, again, another collage that represents different traditions that are that celebrates Easter in Spain. So we're going to listen to Anne's voice reading the information here about the chocolate egg tradition in Spain. Okay, so we see that the teachers also can add their own voice to engage learners with the text through VFEs as well. So in this example, in this VFE, there were 3 principles for language learning that were illustrated in this VFE. So the VFE follows learners' interests and curiosities and allows them to learn through multiple modes, through images, through videos, and using their senses as well. The learners experience real-world activities that are authentic for cultural understanding and opportunities for cultural immersion. And the third principle here is that the teachers could contextualize activities that makes learning fun and helps learners to make connections across cultures and languages. So we'll take a minute to pause and wonder. You may add your thoughts in the chat or chat with someone next to you if you're in person. Think about how is language learning contextualized through VFEs. Some of you might think about how learners could practice oral language skills in a contextualized way. As we saw in Anne's VFE, she invited learners to read a poem and record a response. So they are utilizing their oral language skills. The contextualized activities also provides an opportunity to showcase culture and human activities, such as the egg hunt in the U.S. Easter tradition. Learners got to see how children find the eggs, collect them, and this way learners get to see the actions that comes along with the tradition of egg hunt. And in the images, each of the pictures represented the traditions in each country, which carries meaning. And images also provide context and prompt question. So learners interact with the images in a meaningful way and encourages them to use language and inquire about the different activities and the traditions in each culture, which creates mutual understanding across cultures. And now we're going to see the next 3 principles when we'll introduce those 3 principles next.
Yeah, thank you, Yusra, and hello, everyone. I'm going to introduce another VFE project. So let's look at the other VFE project, which was created by teacher Emily Burris. Emily Burris is a high school French teacher, and she teaches in the state of North Carolina in the United States. And she's not only a passionate educator, but also a program leader in a nonprofit organization which promotes cross-cultural and international education exchange. So in this VFE project, let's click on the link to delve into her project. Yeah, her project is Experience Haiti. In this project, Emily aimed to let her students really experience and explore a French-speaking country, Haiti. So Emily incorporated different resources and the media to make an immersive experience. For example, she used a timeline to tell the history of Haiti. You can see those images in the text. Yeah. And also, she also introduced the language that used in Haiti, French and Creole. And also, she used this 360 image to depict different scenes in Haiti from off the street view. Yeah, let's look at this 360 image. The image illustrates ordinary people and the soldiers in the streets. So from this image, we can experience the daily life in Haiti. Although we see many soldiers in the street, but also we see the fishermen working and a lady selling goods, and also people are talking and socializing in the streets. So we can experience this kind of life in Haiti. So let's go back and look at another 360 image. Yeah. It portrays a house in Haiti. We can hear the sounds. Yeah, if we walk around, we can see the decorations, the food, the pool in the house. And also we enjoy the natural beauties, the forest and the beach and ocean. And also we can see the roof of the house. It's made by banana leaves, and I think it's very eco-friendly and represents people's attitude towards life um, and the nature. So now we can really understand how people live in Haiti and what's the life conditions in there. That's a very beautiful house, and which really immersed um, us to Haiti. So Emily portrayed Haiti from very different perspectives through use of multiple media and the resources. So we can enjoy the beauty of the natural resources, and also we can see people's living conditions, and we also know their political crisis that happened in Haiti. So as educators, we really want our students to travel there, even though they couldn't physically be there. We want to create experiential learning experience for our students and encourage them to form their own perspectives. So it's not only about tourist thing, but the things about culture, and then we can go deeper to understand the culture and the language. Yeah, we can see Haiti from the bird view. That's really immersive and contextualized. And now we can go back and look at another 3 principles about language learning. Yeah, first want to understand the different cultures, perspectives, and the global concept. We understand in language learning, we want to develop our ability to understand the different perspectives and the cultures. From Haiti example, we see different aspects of culture and the people's lives, good things, bad things. We try to understand those important global concepts, such as like world peace, such as something about refugees, something about humanitarianism. So we want to understand those global, very important concepts from learning another language and learning the world. And also, we want to create opportunities to travel without traveling. Yeah, we want to create this immersive experience for students, like they are there, they are virtually there. And we open up the door to students, let them see, appreciate, and embrace the language varieties. French are not only spoken in France, but also in Africa, in Latin America. We hope to respect all people lived experience and the language varieties in different corner of the world. So let's pause and ponder, how does the VF experience support accessibility and the linguistic diversity in language learning? You can share it with your neighbors, or feel free to type in the chat box. We would love to see your opinions and your thoughts. Yeah, we can see that from this Haiti experience. We often incorporate visual and multimedia elements such as images, videos, and interactive simulations, which really enhance our understanding and engagement. So we want to create this accessibility for learners in different countries with different language backgrounds. We want to support this accessibility for all different kinds of learners. And also, yes, in this virtual experience, can simulate a real world language usage by providing a authentic context, right? And a cultural immersion. So learners can virtually explore different cultural settings, hear what local people talk, and communicate in a realist scenario. And all those things help us to develop a deeper understanding of the language and the culture. Yeah, thank you for sharing your thoughts.
Yeah. Another principle, if we go to the next slide, please, is design, and this is principle number 10, and it is designing multimodal experiences through experiential learning. In classrooms, we do everything possible to facilitate learning for our students. So we could have like handouts like the one we see there with vocabulary words and definitions. Sometimes we bring handouts that are just like taken from internet, authentic resources, right? But the VFE provides something a little bit more, well, different with more layers. And the layers are the different modes like audio, images, 360 images, um, spaces where they have interaction. So not in isolation. The whole experience is made up all these combination of modes that has been carefully designed by the teachers and the students too. So we're going to look at one example created by Wei Lai. This is called the Taiwanese breakfast. So her main objective is to make us feel that we are there, that we have this food right in front of us, which looks really delicious. And she wants to teach us a little bit more about the types of breakfast they have in Taiwan. Sometimes they have breakfast at home, sometimes they have breakfast on the go. There are different shops that sell different products that are Western, like, for example, the French fries, or more traditional. So if you hover over the hotspots, you will see the descriptions in Mandarin of the names of the products in Mandarin. You can see um, the description, a little bit more information about how they eat it, what it is made of. So the combination of images, this text, all the semiotic resources give you a lot of support when it comes to meaning making. So she also uses different resources, external resources. For example, the Instagram page. It takes you to a real menu on Instagram where you can see uh, menu pictures of the different products. You can see the conversation of people who talk about the different dishes for breakfast. So students have the opportunity to go to these authentic conversations outside of the classroom. They can also go to like more control exercises in the San Jose example. I was sharing that in the San Jose example, you can go to a Padlet where you ask students to talk about San Jose, their perspectives, what they want to learn, what they notice, etc. So it is the same here, right? Um, you give the students the opportunity to communicate with each other. In this connection, provides a lot of opportunities for using the language meaningfully in for a real purpose. So the next slide, please. In the next slide, we're going to pause and ponder how are VFEs different from other kinds of language learning activities? So we have the traditional exercises. Now think about the VFEs. So some of you might be thinking the VFEs provide the context for language use, which is very authentic. It is not forced, it is natural, right? It provides an opportunity for people to feel that they're in the place, experience. With the Taiwanese breakfast, we are just sitting there on the table. You actually feel like you can choose the products that you want. So it makes you feel that you're immersed there. The images, the combination of images with sounds and different activities help you to understand more the concepts that are being discussed, and at the same time enjoy this beautiful experience. You have the freedom to go to different places. Next slide, please. So we have come up with these 10 principles, right, for language learning. This is part of a journey that we have had for 2 years, in which we have participated with different partners like Circle, the Center for Educational Resources in Culture, Language, and Literacy, the East Asian Studies, Latin American Studies, Middle Eastern Studies, the Digital Innovation and Learning Lab. And we want to share with you these principles that can be applied to other situations. Like, for example, you have to promote creativity as a way of learning a language through design and interactivity. You have to help your students become part of the global community, not just knowing what is around them, but knowing that there are many ways of thinking, many ways of doing, becoming more sensitive and respectful to the global community, using multiple literacies to make meaning, digital literacy, critical thinking skills, using the learner's interest to anchor their learning. So giving them freedom to choose what they want to learn, opportunities to experience different situations, and letting them be on the driver's seat, using real world activities, understanding different cultures, creating these opportunities to travel without traveling, which responds also to a social justice responsibility that we have as teachers, and also embracing all language varieties. All dialects and languages are equally valid. There's not like one more important than the other, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. And as we plan our classes and create the language learning activities for our students. Now I'm going to introduce to you um, one teacher. Next slide, please. We have Susan Pineda. We are so honored to have her here. She's such a committed and wonderful teacher. She holds nearly 12 years of experience in the educational field, with 8 of those years being a fifth grade teacher. She holds a master's degree in professional learning communities, and she has had the opportunity to work in the classroom and have different leadership positions that have inspired her to become a principal. Susan, please share with us your experience using virtual field experiences as an instructional approach.
First and foremost, hi everyone. I'm very happy to be here presenting to you today. I'm a fifth grade teacher. My school is on the border of the United States and Mexico. My students commute to the USA daily. I have some families that live in Mexico. And my fifth grade students are primarily Spanish speakers learning English as their second language. We have many English language learners. Those are students who come from non English speaking homes and who are learning the English language at our school. And I created VFEs with my students so that they can learn how to accept Mexican American traditions. And now we are going to explore some of the VFEs that my students created. So this project that you see here, it is a VFE created by one of my students. And here, my English language learners, they learn how to make language connections across the curriculum that we have. So we are going to be listening to their story of what it meant to them to be Mexican American. So we cannot hear the audio, but here we have the students learned how to do um, write the audio, the script, and then they learn how to orally rehearse it and integrate that into their VFE. So they were able to tell their story of what it meant to them to be Mexican American through their VFE. Now, all of these were standard based topics. So what I did is I got standard based topics that were already integrated into our curriculum, and at the same time they were also learning vocabulary terms that were part of Mexico and that were part of America. Now here in our VFE, we are going to see the immigration story from their family members. So my students, I had assigned to them to interview someone who had immigrated here to the United States, and they they were able to interview and learn their story. Now they created, once they had that interview and they learned their story, my students created a biography and wrote the story of that person. They My English language learners wrote that in English, and then they were also able to write that in Spanish. So all of that was transferred to both languages. So here we're seeing that we're scrolling. So the top text is in English and the bottom text is in Spanish, and that is the translation. The image that you see here is a narrative. So they actually created the narrative of the person that they interviewed. So what does that person look like to them? So they they created that image, and half of the image is the American traditions that that person adopted and the Mexican traditions that that person adopted. And to the side of that, we see the actual image of what that person looks like. So this person is the grandmother of one of my students, and my student was able to learn the story of her grandmother and how now she is here in the United States, and how she is living now, still practicing the Mexican traditions, and how now she adopted the American traditions. And we also have another immigration story from another student. And this student, she interviewed her own mother. So she was able to learn the story of her mother. She made her own interview questions. Then she created a biography of her mother's story, of how she came to the United States and how she's still practicing the Mexican traditions, and how she has adopted the new traditions here in the United States. And this student was also able to create a narrative drawing and integrate that into the VFE. So she's telling the story through the biography image from the interview that she created, but as well through the drawing that she created of her mother. And through the bottom of the text, there is a link here, and the students also made connections with other students globally of how they're here in the United States, and they were also able to learn about other immigration stories about other students globally. And this here taught them that they're not here in this alone, that there's other students going through this as well. So, and here I'm going to go back to the through the VFE. So here the students were able to learn that to them it's a norm to come to come to the United States, to come to school. For them, that is normal to come to a whole new country every day just to come to school and go back to their country and live there. And to them, it's normal. But if we look at this, this is not a norm to come to another country every day and then to go back home, just to get the learning. So I wanted the students to be able to make a connection of how this is something very empowering what they're doing just to come to learn. So here the students um, created tags, and I wanted to see how I can make that connection with them. So we brainstorm ideas, and the one that we have here is how we have the what it means to them to be Mexican American, and they were able to tell their story of how empowered they were, of what it was, of what it meant to them to be a Mexican American, being able to accept and adopt those new traditions that the students had. We also have here other tags, where we have where students created the traditions from Mexico and the traditions from America. And the students also created that text in English, and the students created that text in Spanish. And again, as a reminder, these are all English language learners, so the students were able to practice both languages. And then the students also created links where they added videos how they saw of what their traditions were in Mexico and what their traditions were here in the United States. The students were also able to create and identify themselves with similarities and differences with both cultures and how they can integrate those both in the community. And the way that I did this was I created a VFE myself, and my VFE was named Binational Arts Without Borders Sin Fronteras project, and I wanted to make a connection myself with the students. So I created a VFE where I identified myself with him, and I told my story of how my parents immigrated here to the United States and how I was able to adopt both traditions. And the students then began identifying the transnational themes, and then they began making their own personal connections with the family members. That's when all the interviews began happening, and they were able to see that all of that is in the community that they're all part of. Everything was all around them. And then students discussed their own experiences. And we see here in the cover photo, this is a cover photo that they created, and I wanted them to tell their story of what it meant to them to be Mexican American through an image um, that that was inspiring to others. So I wanted them to tell their own story through a picture, which is their cover photo. And this picture here, this drawing, it has a lot of detail. So one side is parted in how they see themselves in Mexico, and the other side is parted on how they see themselves in America, where they're still adopting both traditions and both celebrations, and how they're still having those both life experiences on each side. And I'm going to demonstrate here the other VFE from my other student of how she sees herself in Mexico and how she sees herself in America. So this is my other student, and here is her cover photo. And this is how she sees herself in Mexico, and this is how she sees herself in the United States. So my English language learners were able to use and make global connections with all of their surroundings that they had around them by being able to adopt both. My students also they were able to create audios, they created videos, they created tags. They went from my English language learners went from the traditional paper-based learning, and they were able to transfer all of that to becoming literate with technology. So they were able to transfer everything that they created in paper and transfer all of that to technology. So not only did it help them being able to adopt and accept to be Mexican and American, but it also helped them to become literate with all of the technology that they have around them. They were able to oral rehearse by being able to practice oral rehearsing. They were able to also become literate in writing. They were also able to become literate in reading as well, because they had to research all of the history behind the American traditions and all of the history behind the Mexican traditions as well.
Thank you so much, Suizan. We really are inspired by you, inspired by your students. And in a few minutes, we'll get a chance to pose questions to our whole presenter group. So if you are a member of the audience, think about what questions you may have for Veronica, Yusra, Wen, and Suizan. But before then, if we could go on to the next slide. We hope we've inspired you today to see a little bit more about the worlds of experience for language learning. We have created a full website that has many opportunities to learn a little bit more about this approach. For example,
We have many student examples that come from Zuezen's class and other K-12 educational contexts. So you get a chance to see not only student examples, teacher examples of what the flexibility of the instructional model, virtual field experience, can offer. This website also has sort of the background experiences of what this instructional model is all about. And let's go back to the slides. Scan this QR code quickly because it will take you directly to the website, and you can explore more fully the instructional model. We want to say thank you today as well. We are continuing to have a professional learning series where we are working with teachers such as yourselves in K-12, in higher education, in community colleges. And if you were inspired by what you saw today, we want to invite you to fill out this short interest form because we are recruiting teachers for our fall 2023 instructional learning series and our spring 2024 instructional learning series. It is a Saturday session where you come for 2 hours and you learn how to map onto your curriculum how you might use and create a VFE for your own experiences. We invite you to take a few moments to write to us. And now, if we go on to the next slide, we have the chance to hear from you about your inspirations, comments, connections, and questions. Thank you.
Thank you all very much for this wonderful presentation. We will now open the floor for questions. So remember that you can write your questions in the chat and we will transfer them to our specialist. Please try to ask your questions as concisely as possible. We have some comments here. Creating biographies by drawing pictures. It helps students to express better. They write more than we can imagine. We have a question here. How do you organize the creation of these BFS in class? Is there a period of supervised work followed by individual work? What are the dynamics?
Susan, maybe refer to
Yes.
that.
Yes. So I we have a curriculum here in we have a curriculum that we have to follow. So the way that I organize that is I attach the standards and the skills that the students need to be taught at the time, and I integrate that and make that connection with the VFE that I want to have with my students. So for example, I want to make a global connection with the students, but also a connection that the students can relate to so that it's something that it inspires them and it empowers them to want to take more initiative, to want to create the project. And first I look at topics that the students can relate to the most, within their community, and that's where I begin. And then I look at the standards where I can help make that connection and tie that together. And and I create 4 topics. It can be more. I create 4 topics where the students will have more interest in. So for example, for me, I had immigration story. That was one of them. The other one was the similarities and differences amongst both communities, and then what it means to be Mexican American, and the traditions and celebrations that both of them can adopt. So you just look for at least 4 topics that the students can relate to the most, and tie that into the tags. And that is a very good starting point, because that gives you a starting point for each of the tags. I hope that I answered your question. It is easy to create a VFE. It's very, very simple. I would first recommend for the students to do everything on the traditional based paper based, and any method that you have already that you're already using in the classroom, and then transferring that over to the technology, so that everything is written on paper first, and then you transfer that over to the technology.
We have another one here. Where and how can we create the BFS?
Well,
Sarcastic, would you like to add on to this one, to this question?
This one is all Vero. Vero.
okay, so first scan the code, join us in the professional learning series. It's a process, like any process, there's a learning curve, and it's a process that we have with a lot of discussion, support. We create this sense of community. So we support each other in like exchanging ideas, helping with technical support, also if there are questions about content, just to make sure that it's a very meaningful um, virtual field experience. So it is easy. Join us, please, in the teacher professional series.
Thank you. This is very similar to the previous one. Does it require a lot of technical knowledge to use it?
It doesn't require that much. It's a process, right? We can use it, it's a concept. Virtual field experiences are a concept, so we can use different tools to make virtual field experiences. So a lot of people have started from zero, and that's part of the learning, because we have to develop our own digital literacies too as teachers, right? Together with our students in this directional expertise. Yeah.
Thank you. We have comments. Oh, we have another question here. Can you share again the information about the VFE training?
Sure, I'm going to share my screen one more time. If anyone would like to scan the code, it will take them directly to the interest form and they can fill it out and submit.
And we have also shared our slides with the organizers of the conference. So you
Right.
can go back and explore the VFEs on your own and look at all the links. Take your time, right, and participate with us.
Thank you. We have comments. We have here, it's a bonding experience with their own culture, their families, and the culture of the United States. Wonderful. Thank you. Well, thank you for all your insights this afternoon. This will be invaluable resource for all of us. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now move to the last presentation of the day, delivered by Maria Susana Gonzalez from Argentina, entitled Genre-Based Literacy Pedagogy at University. Maria Susana Gonzalez is a teacher of English, a BA in Letters, and an MA in Discourse Analysis. At present, she is our Tesol president and the director of our Tesol ESP journal. So please let us welcome Ms. Maria Susana Gonzalez. She is our Tesol president and the director of our Tesol ESP journal. So please let us welcome Ms.
Maria Susana Gonzalez. Our Tesol president and the director of our Tesol ESP journal. So let us welcome Ms. Maria Susana Gonzalez.
Okay.
Our Tesol president and the director of
It's
our
repeating the
Tesol
presentation.
journal. Let us welcome Ms. Maria Susana Gonzalez.
Okay.
Our Tesol president and the director of
It's repeating the presentation. Yes.
It's repeating the presentation.
Yes.
Yes.
Can you see the screen? Can you? I'm trying to share the screen.
Can you see the screen? Can you? I'm trying to share screen.
I'm trying to share a screen, right? Can you see it?
I'm trying to share screen, right?
We seem to be having some technical issues, so please bear with us, and we're going to fix those in a sec.
I'm trying to share a screen. Can you hear me?
We seem to be having some technical issues, so please bear with us, and we're going to fix those in a sec. I'm trying to share screen. Can you hear me? We seem to be having some technical issues, so please bear with us, and we're going to fix those in a sec. I'm trying to share screen. Can you hear me? We seem to be having some technical
No sé.
issues.
Right? Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
All
We
right.
cannot see the presentation yet.
No, I am trying to share the screen.
Yes, we can hear you. We cannot see the presentation yet.
Now?
No, I am trying to share.
No, I'm afraid we cannot see it yet.
Can you see it now?
We can hear you. We cannot see the presentation yet.
No, not yet.
Well, I don't
I'm
know.
afraid we cannot see it yet. Can you see it now?
Okay. Could you please, if you have us on YouTube, could you please make sure that that's closed?
Sorry?
If you have us on YouTube, live on YouTube, could you please make sure that you close that window with
There
the...
is a terrible echo. I can't hear anything.
Sorry?
There is a terrible echo. I can't hear anything.
Make sure that you close that window with the...
There is a terrible echo. I can't hear anything. There is a terrible echo. I can't hear anything.
Make sure that you close that.
Well, can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can hear you. Do you still hear the echo?
Now the echo has stopped, apparently.
Okay, good. Good.
Now, yes, I can.
Do you still hear the echo?
It's repeating. It's repeating what we are saying. Now, yes, I can. It's repeating. It's repeating what we are saying.
Do you have a YouTube window open, meaning a live YouTube window there opened? Could you please close that one?
Now it's all right. Now I
Yeah,
understood.
I think
what
it's
you
better.
said.
Now we cannot hear the echo anymore.
Well,
Good.
that's right. So I want to share screen, so that I'm trying to do that. I have to click on share screen, I suppose. Yes?
Yes.
And now, can you see the screen?
No, we cannot see it.
Well, I don't know how to do it then.
Is click on presentar, and then
Yes. Yes.
from
and
there, compartir pantalla.
then pantalla. Yes. And then,
And that's it. We should be seeing your screen.
let's see. Seleccionar. Let's see.
Now we can see the screen.
Yes, but I cannot see it. Let me see. I don't know what to do. Well, again, I'll try again. This sharing screen is the same as in Zoom. Do you know that?
Yes, it's presentar and then compartir pantalla, making sure that you choose your screen, the one where you have the presentation, and then
The
you
presentation.
will be sharing.
Now, no? Can you see it?
No, we cannot see it.
I don't know how to do it, really.
Once again, presentar, compartir pantalla.
Yes, wait a minute, because now it
All right.
was closed. Yes, presentar, compartir pantalla. And now it says consejos para compartir pantalla.
Make sure that you choose the one where you have your presentation, please.
Yes, I have it at the bottom of the screen. I have the presentation as we have in Zoom, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Cannot see it yet.
Seleccionar ventana o pantalla. Wait a minute.
Okay, we're going to take a little break so we can fix the situation and continue with the presentation. So please remain with us and we'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you all for your patience. We have solved our technical issues. And now we will continue with the last presentation entitled Genre-Based Pedagogy at University. Maria Susana Gonzalez is a teacher of English, a BA in Letters, and an MA in Discourse Analysis. At present, she's our TESOL president and the director of the TESOL ESP journal. So please let us welcome Ms. Maria Susana Gonzalez.
Right. Please, I cannot change the slides, so I think you have to do it. Yes, could you hear me?
You can do so with the arrows, with your keyboard arrows.
Yes, but I can't. I can't. Probably because I didn't share it.
Okay, we were going to help you over here.
Okay. Please, next. I will tell you when when I want to change it. Well, thank you. Well, hello everybody. If there is somebody there after 10 minutes waiting for me. All right. The aim of this presentation is to show the basic tenets of the genre-based literacy pedagogy developed by the Sydney School and its application in reading comprehension courses of academic texts written in English at university. Now, the first question that we university teachers in Argentina asked ourselves was, why is it necessary to teach in a public university reading comprehension courses in English? Hello, Sandra. Well, next, please, next slide. please. Thank you. Well, why is it necessary to teach it? Because English, whether we like it or not, is the lingua franca in the academy. Most of the scientific information we are acquainted with is written in English. English is the dominant language in the sharing of scientific knowledge. So as future professionals, we need to teach our undergraduate students and even our graduate students to be acquainted with the possibility of reading English, reading research articles written in English. And also students and postgraduate, undergraduate and postgraduate students need to know the different genres that are used in scientific transmission of knowledge. Next, please. The definition of, there are different theories that deal with genres. The theory I will be talking about is systemic functional linguistics. This theory considers that language is a resource to build meanings, and the grammar of the language gives you a system of networks, and you as a writer or as a speaker choose from the different possibilities the grammar gives you a system network that you choose and use when you write a text or when you speak. Meanings lie in these systemic models of elections, and the system of language is realized in a text. That's to say, the grammar, as I told you, gives you the possibilities, you choose the possibilities, and you write the text or you speak, because you also speak a text. Well, and there is a relation between the text and its context that now we will see in detail. Next, please. Thank you. According to this theory, the language has three basic metafunctions: interpersonal, ideational, and textual. All the languages in their development develop these three metafunctions. The ideational metafunction is that metafunction that allows us to speak or to write about a subject, a topic. The interpersonal metafunction is a metafunction that allows us to choose certain options from the grammar to speak or write according to the relation of power that there are between the reader, the writer, between the speaker and the listening. You will not choose the same things if you are talking or to a superior, I mean a person with a different relation of power than you, or if you are talking or speaking or writing to a friend. And the textual metafunction is the one that organizes the choices done by the interpersonal and ideational metafunction into a text. So this is, the text may be oral or may be written. The next one, please. Thank you. Well, all these ideas that I've mentioned belong to Halliday. Halliday, as you see, consider that language, this would be language, phonology and lexicography, because he doesn't speak of lexis and grammar separately. They are all together. Semantics is not is the basis of language. And then you have textual meanings, as I said, interpersonal meanings, and experiential meanings that constitute the three metafunction of discourse, right? And finally, Halliday also spoke of the two social contexts of language. One is the context of situation, this one that is here. Can you see the arrow? The textual meanings are indicate the mode of the language, so to say, written or oral. Then the interpersonal meanings, the tenor, and the experiential meanings, the field, right? The next one, please. Well, Martin and Rose are disciples of Halliday, and they speak of another context, social context, that's the context of culture. And they consider that genres are here. That is the topic of my presentation. They consider that every culture develops the genres the culture needs. For example, in some cases, some cultures that don't need academic genres, but we do need them, right? But those genres are in the culture, right? Well, the next one, please. Yes. Well, what is genre-based literacy pedagogy? Rose and Martin, those Halliday's disciples, developed two projects in Australia, in the Sydney School, which is the linguistic department of Sydney University in Australia. They studied language and education since they've been studying language and education since the 80s. And the main objective of this school is to develop a pedagogy that could allow students to be successful readers and writers in primary and secondary school, and to design strategies to guide the teachers to facilitate the acquisition of literacy by their students. And they consider that a genre is a social process with a certain objective. What does it mean? That you have it said all the genre, each genre has a project, and it has different steps, and we have to learn about them. Well, the next one, please. Why did they do that? Because the Australian context in the 80s was very difficult for migrants, children, and indigenous populations. You know that Australia is a country that received a lot of migrants, and also there were a lot of indigenous populations, and they were concentrated in the center of Australia. And in those primary schools, the children had a lot of difficulties to acquire the national language, that is English. And so the first thing these researchers do was to analyze and classify the school genres that the children were asked for, and also to design strategies that could help them. Yes, the next one, please. And they also criticized the Australian pedagogic paradigms, because there were two paradigms that were being used in Australia in the 80s. One of them was the traditional approach that was teacher-centered. So what what did teachers do? Well, they present a jungle. And there was a monological lesson about the jungle characteristics. The teacher was a sort of expositor. And then they asked the children to write or to produce an example of that jungle. And the other paradigm was a constructivist paradigm, following Vygotsky and his zone of proximal development. This paradigm was student-centered. And they asked the students questions about their knowledge about the different genres. So the teachers retrieved previous knowledge about genres from the students. Then they gave them examples, and finally they asked for a written production of this genre, of the genre they studied. All right, the next one, please. So they criticized, these researchers criticized both paradigms. Why? I was surprised at what they said about Vygotsky, because I admired Vygotsky's position at that moment. I mean, when I read all these things produced by these two researchers at the beginning of this century. The thing is that they believed that the Vygotskian approach was not adequate for populations that were in unfavorable social context. So they suggested another approach. It was a cyclic process. Pass on to the next one, please. All right. Here you have this cyclic process. Can you see it? First, the students were prepared for reading first. This means that they try to retrieve the students' knowledge about the different genres and discuss with the teacher. And with the help of the teacher, they had to deconstruct the genre. That's to say, to see what steps the genre had. And then they, together with the teacher, they produced, or they began to read, in this case, an example of that genre. Then they read in groups with their peers other examples of the genre. That is what they consider the joint reconstruction, because the students worked in groups together, of course, with the help, the teacher's help. And finally, they were able to produce an individual construction of the genre. Now, one of the, if we go on with the cycle, when they did the detailed reading, they paid attention to the typical linguistic resources of the genre. And then they did the rewriting of what they read with a group of students, or perhaps first with the teacher and then with a group of students. And when they dominated the genre, they were asked to produce an example individually. So this was a constant cycling and recycling. The idea was that the student could build his knowledge of this genre. The next one, please. Right. Well, as I said before, they studied what genres students read in primary school and in secondary school. Well, they found that most of the things they read and wrote about were stories. And why? Because what is the jungle we all know, and what is the jungle we've been listening to or reading about since we were children? It was stories, because you, to a little boy or girl, you read a story. So in general, students know perfectly well the different steps in the story, that there are characters in a certain place, there is a problem, and the problem is solved. Well, these people studied different types of stories that are everyday stories, and also they studied history, what they call histories, that are autobiographies or biographies or a historical recount. It's a kind of the biography of the different peoples in history. And these two genres, stories and histories, were genres the students were able to dominate. But what about explanations? The explanation of a sequence or to explain causes and effects. Well, this was not very useful in primary school, at least. It is useful, it is used in secondary schools. The next one, please. In secondary school, they were asked to write about procedures, how to do something or how to use something, how to describe how to use something. And also reports, that's to say, descriptions of classification and descriptions of phenomena, and arguments. In the case of arguments, they made a very interesting difference between three types of argumentation. The first one was called exposition. That's to say, the kind of argumentation where you establish a thesis and you defend it with arguments. Then the second one, the debate, when you have two or three positions and the author either defends one and destroys the other, or defends a combination of the three of them, etc. There are different possibilities. And the challenge, that is when you want to destroy other positions because you disagree absolutely with it. And also they found text responses, reviews, interpretations, or critical responses to text. But all these genres were not studied seriously in secondary education. I can tell you that the situation in primary and secondary schools in Argentina is quite similar. All right, the next one, please. Well, the thing is, in higher education, can we apply this approach to reading comprehension courses in higher educations? We thought we can. And so, what I am going to talk about is a simple case in the School of Philosophy and Letters in the University of Buenos Aires. In the English reading courses, we receive students with a very, very basic knowledge of English. The 80% of the students are A1, have a knowledge of English of A1. 18% A2 approximately, and only 2% B1. The rest of them who have a better knowledge of English generally sit for independent exams, and well, they pass the exam. Not always, but in general they do. But in the regular courses, the courses students attend, we have students with an A1 and an A2 level, very low level of English. And so in 3 semesters with lessons of 4 hours a week, they have to finish 3 courses, reading a complete research article from the humanities in English. But they produce their summaries or any kind of exercises or tasks in Spanish. And the texts are academic texts in the area of humanities, because in the School of Philosophy and Letters, they study 9 fields of studies: history, geography, education, philosophy, letters, anthropology, librarianship, and edition. There are nine fields of study. And the genres that are generally used in the humanities are narratives, descriptions, debates, and challenges, which are the most difficult ones, especially debates. And so what we do is, when we teach English for specific purposes, this is what we do, we contribute to the development of their academic literacy. All right, the next one, please. Well, as we had this kind of students, we had to develop a model of reading. A model of reading, and I am going to concentrate on the cognitive area of this model of reading. That's to say, the pre-reading stage, the preparation for reading. The pre-reading stage is very important because it's the moment when students generate specific and general reading hypotheses about the text. And if these hypotheses are correct, these hypotheses guide them in their reading and in a final personal reconstruction of the text. And in this pre-reading stage, the paratext, that is what surrounds the texts, and the organizational signals are fundamental to anticipate a text, and to anticipate not only the text content, but also the genre of the text. And this facilitates then their reading, because they are prepared to read a certain genre, and if they know the steps of the genre, they will find it easier to read these texts. All right, the next one, please. We are going to work with some examples. For example, if you want, you can write in the chat the answer to these questions so that can participate a little. For example, in this paratext, that's to say the title, and here also we teach them how you write the references of a text. We have, the author is Caroline Rae. The title of the article is In Havana and Paris, the Musical Activities of Alejo Carpentier. Music and Letters. This is the journal when it was published, and then the characteristics of the journal. And we have also the year of the presentation, 2008. And what information about the text content can we anticipate? What do you think the text is about? The experiential meaning. Probably the students will say, well, it's about music, but music and letters, why music and letters? And then some other student may say, because it's a text about Alejo Carpentier. Perhaps young people don't know him very much, but the people in letters, as we have mixed groups of students, they are from different courses of study, probably the people from letters will immediately say, well, he was a Cuban writer who wrote at the beginning of the 20th century and so on. And the other question we generally ask is what do you think the text will be about? Probably the students will say, well, about, I didn't know. One student may say that Alejo Carpentier was also a musician, perhaps some connection between music and his writings. Well, all right. And is the other question we can say, is English the writer's mother tongue? We don't know because we don't have here information about the author, right? Perhaps it isn't. Perhaps it is. We don't know. Well, the next one, please. All right. And here is the abstract. This is the only thing we are going to see about the four texts I'm going to present. If you can read the abstract, you will be able to answer the question, can you anticipate the genre of this article? I mean, is it a narration? Is it a biography? Is it an autobiography? Is it an explanation? Is it an argumentation? And the other thing we generally ask is look for linguistic elements that can help you distinguish what genre the text is about. And we'll see the next one, please. Well, here we see that I highlighted some phrases. Cuban writer Alejo Carpentier, during his creative apprenticeship in the interwar years, in 1920s Havana, after being forced to flee Havana, during his 11-year residence in Paris, 1928-39, all these are marks of a biography. So they will probably say this text is a biographical text. It's a text that is about the life of Alejo Carpentier. Yes, the next one, please. Yes. Good, Sandra and the other. Fine. Thank you for the contributions. Now, again, well, here we have, in this next text, we have organizational signals. You know what they are? For example, the author biography. In this text, the author is Obiekbu Ifeigina Xingwa Rita. The article was written in 2018. The title is Reading Errors in Second Language Learners. And only with that, can you anticipate the text content? I mean, what the text, if it belongs to geography, to history, to education, to philosophy, only with the title. What do you think? Reading Errors in Second Language Learners. It was published in Sage Open. Sage Open doesn't say much, but the title. What field is it? Probably students, because we have education students, will say it's an educational article. Yes, that's right, Angie, sorry. And what about the author's biography? Is English her mother tongue? She's a senior lecturer in English language at the Department of English and Literary Studies of the University of Nigeria. She has done several research studies on reading errors in second language situation. What do you think? Is English her mother tongue? Do you know what language is Nigeria's national language? Well, the national language is English, but there are lots of indigenous languages. So probably this author, and this is all the conversation we have with the students, English is not her mother tongue. Probably English is the language she uses because it's a national language in Nigeria. All right, the next one, please. All right. Well, here you have the abstract, that is another organizational signal, and also have other things, keywords that you write when you write a research paper. You write the abstract and also keywords. The keywords are linguistic factors, reading competence, second language learners, reading error, extensive reading. So if we read the abstract, if we have time to read the abstract, it says, or even if we don't, only with the keywords, can you anticipate the text topic, what the article will be about? Probably, if we have teachers there, they will say, well, about education, of course, yes. And especially, as we saw in the title, reading errors. And the next slide, please. All right. This is a joint deconstruction that the teacher and the students can make. I marked certain parts in this text. This study posits that there are divergent positions among scholars regarding the roles of experiential and linguistic factors in reading incompetence among second language readers. This is the problem. That's why it's an explanation with problem solution order. There are divergent positions about the role or the importance of experiential and linguistic factors in reading incompetence, in problems of reading among second language readers. This study was conducted with a view to determining the exact sources of reading errors. So this is the aim of the person who does the study. The goal, again, the aim, was to suggest strategies of reading improvement. And she did an experiment, and the results show that reading competence was typically low in Nigeria. However, it is significant that linguistic inadequacies accounted for the bulk of the reading errors identified. So the problem was linguistic, according to this writer. And so she suggests, it says this study advocates an approach to reading instruction which emphasizes extensive reading. So there was a problem. She organized an experiment, and she discovered that one of these factors was the one for the problems in reading. That was the lack of language knowledge. Okay, the next one, please. This is another jungle, so let's see another. Moreno Maria Jose, Art Museums and the Internet. Emergence of the Virtual Museum in Music and Letters. This is, again, the journal, volume 89, Maria Jose Moreno, Department of Social Sciences, College of General Studies, University of Puerto Rico, Rio Piedras Campus, Puerto Rico. So, Art Museums and the Internet is the title. The Emergence of the Virtual Museum. What is the topic then? Is it, it belongs to what area of knowledge? Hmm? Probably what? It's not music, but it's connected with art because art museum. All right. And what about the author? Is English her mother tongue? This is from Puerto Rico, so you can, in one of the presentations, yes, Anna, of course. One of the presentations today or yesterday, I don't remember, it was about I think it was today, was about the disadvantage of people who speak Creole in Puerto Rico. So probably this Maria Jose Moreno could have that problem because although English is used, this Creole is the people who speak Creole in Puerto Rico are disregarded. Okay, the next one, please. Here we have the abstract. The internet has brought about the birth of a new cultural space, the virtual museum. This essay, see how there are sentence phrases that are repeated. This essay examines how placing the museum in cyberspace redefines the functions of the museum and the relations between the museums, the art object and the public. It is argued that virtual museums are paradoxical spaces. While the digital format of virtual museums permits an alteration of the conventional views and relations existing in the traditional museum, the limited availability of internet technology ties the virtual museum to the established power structures that have characterized the real art world. Okay. The next one, please. Here, perhaps if you are not trained, it's difficult to anticipate the genre from the abstract. But here it says what the here. It is argued that virtual museums are paradoxical spaces. This word "argue" is the one that indicates that there may be some sort of argumentation. While the digital format of virtual museum permits an alteration of the conventional views and relations existing in the traditional museum, one idea, the limited availability of internet technology ties the virtual museum to the established power structure. So she agrees with the idea that virtual museums are paradoxical spaces. And then she gives her arguments. Virtual museums are fantastic because it permits the changes in the views and relations that exist between the museum and the people, but also, and this is why paradoxical, the limited availability of internet in many areas of our planet make it difficult for people to access to virtual museums. Okay, the next one, please. And finally, let's see this one. Scott McLean, in 2007, the University Extension and Social Change, positioning a university of the people in Saskatchewan. It was published in Adult Education Quarterly. Scott McLean is a director of continuing education and a professor of sociology at the University of Calgary, Canada. Well, this is easier to anticipate the topic or the text content. What will this article be about? Yes, obviously about education. And what about the author? Is English his mother tongue? Remember that in Canada, they speak two languages, French and English. Maybe one of them, of these languages, is his mother tongue. We don't know. All right, the next one. Well, here it says that there are two predominant interpretations of the history of Canadian university extension. Universities in general have extension programs for adults, which are very interesting. And the two interpretations are the liberal or institutional, that considers that extension has been a means for universities to disseminate resources, foster progress in societies, and meet the learning needs of individuals. And the critical or nostalgic perspective claims that university extension once resisted dominant forms of power relation, but now supports such relations. Well, this article again challenges these two interpretations. Be careful, challenge. This is what we have to notice. Evidently, this will be a challenge because challenges these two interpretations. He is against the two interpretations. And then the article, he says that that these interpretations are incorrect, right? Well, can you, the next one, please? Okay, here is what I mentioned, the article challenges, and the author argues that the evolution of university extension in this university was influenced by changes to the mode of production in the province. So he's against the two previous interpretations, and he says that the changes were due to the changes in modes of production. All right, the next one. Well, what are the conclusions? I try to show you that English is academia lingua franca, and that's why we find it necessary in our universities to teach reading comprehension courses, because most of the 90% of the papers that we read at universities are written in English. So students have to be able to understand them, because it's the only possibility to go on learning and to go on belonging to the academia, right? And genre-based literacy pedagogy, we think philosophy and letters, is a powerful tool to help students acquire academic literacy. Well, the next one. Okay, I wanted to share with you, if you are interested in reading comprehension or in reading in general, some journals that are free. One of them, and you can read a lot of articles on reading. One of them is Reading in a Foreign Language from the University of Hawaii. They are free. You write University of Hawaii and you will find the journal Reading in a Foreign Language. You don't have to pay anything. And then we, in our TESOL, in our association, we have an ESP journal and an EFL journal. This is not, the ESP journal perhaps is more concentrated on reading, but the EFL journal is about the four macro abilities. These are free also. And there is one publication, one issue from the Revista Traslaciones, published by the National University of Cuyo in Argentina, that has just published a journal on modern languages. So you can find also interesting articles there. All right, the next one, please. Thank you. This is, thank you for waiting for me. All right. Well, that's all.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez, for your presentation. We will now open the floor for questions. Remember that you can write your questions in the chat box, and let's try to keep those as concisely as possible, and we will transfer those to our specialists. We have some comments here. Reading is a process. Sometimes we forget to include pre-reading activities.
All right, and you know that this is also a problem in not only in university, but also my daughter is a teacher, a kindergarten teacher, and when she reads narratives to children, I always tell her, show the cover of the book and ask the children, well, when they can speak, because if you work with children of 3, 4, and 5 years, they can speak, and ask them what do they think they are going to read about, of course with very simple language, because these pre-reading activities are very often not considered even in people who are in education. I don't know why, but in my case, I specialized in reading. I don't understand why they don't work on that. Yes, I agree. You have to begin with pre-reading activities, but not only activating previous knowledge, as all the textbooks say, but also thinking about the organization of the text you are going to read. Because, yes, you activate previous knowledge and then you don't go down to the text. You don't go to the title or to relate the title with some pictures to sort of hypothesize about the text genre and the text content. It's a pity, but you're right. Very often these activities are not considered.
Of course, and they are very, very important indeed. We have another comment here. This type of text analysis is useful to teach reading strategies, and it also helps students of EAP.
Yes, definitely. Definitely, because, yes.
Yes, please go ahead.
Because reflecting on the genres, when you speak with, or when you work like this at university, you are surprised because students generally don't reflect on the rhetorical organization or as the systemic say, steps of a genre. So they cannot produce appropriate text. University students, I remember when I was studying at university, the first time they asked me to write a monography, I didn't know how to write it. I mean, and I remember that I wrote one that was quite good in a way as regards content, but the teacher told me, listen, but you didn't write an introduction. You jumped into the text. She was right. I didn't even write a single sentence for an introduction. So I didn't know how this genre is organized. But nobody made me reflect on that.
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
Yes.
We have another comment. It says sometimes there's no time. We go straight to the reading comprehension activity without activating previous knowledge.
Mhm. Yes, but if you activate previous knowledge, not only related to the content, but also to the type of text or the genre or the discursive genre, you facilitate reading. And so the reading comprehension step, that's to say, the second, the wild reading stage, is easier for the students because you
Absolutely.
activated a lot of hypotheses. And so they begin reading with a lot of hypotheses. So comprehension is easier. Mm. Yes,
We have a comment about sectioning the texts with activities, which can also promote their eagerness to read further.
yes, yes.
And
And
it
if,
helps them.
when you read a long text, for example, you know that now it's difficult to make people read, but if you read part of it one class and you stop in a very important in a moment when there is some sort of tension, they will be eager to go on reading. Mm. Yes,
You can definitely motivate them. It helps them choose which articles to read when doing research. It saves them time just by reading the abstracts.
of course. Well, this is an anticipatory strategy. You have thousands of articles to read, and you choose which to read, only reading the abstracts. Yes.
And we have a comment here. I like how the information provided from references can also arise
And
so many possible topics to discuss with students. And there are so many activities one can do as well.
of course. Yes, yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for all your insights, Ms. Maria Susana Gonzalez. We are sure they will be very useful in everybody's teaching practice. Thank you very much.